Hello everyone, my name is Gus and welcome to Dive Talk Plus. Today we're not talking about diving whatsoever. Of course, you read the title, you know we're talking about knives. You know I'm a knife guy, and there's a bunch of knives that I have that I don't really like just handing to people. And what I mean by that is typically you give somebody a pocket knife and they can figure it out. Like, I'm just gonna pick this one right here. It's a little Leatherman tool that I have. I give somebody this Leatherman tool, they know that they can just flip the knife. It's pretty easy to use, and then you can just close it. It's not a big deal. Figuring out this knife is not a big deal. But there's 5 knives that I have that I consider to be too dangerous to hand out to people. Now, of course, if you're a knife guy, you will be like, this is dumb, you can hand those to me. I'm not talking to experts or people who are enthusiasts and have a bunch of these. You may have some of these. These are regular people like my dad, my mom, whatever. I have a pocket knife. Say, hey, can I open this up? Sometimes I carry knives that are not conducive to just hand them to people. If I have to give them to somebody, I'll probably open it and then hand it to them open already, and then I'll close it. So let's talk about these knives. By the way, I don't know the prices on these. I'm not trying to sell you knives. I'm not going to add any referral links at the bottom so I can make money off of. This is just, I don't even know if these are for sale, to be honest. Some of these that I bought are discontinued. You cannot buy them anymore. I've been buying knives for so many years now. So this might not be the case. So let's start with knife number 1. This one is probably one of my most recent knives that I bought. You can probably pick this one up. This is called the Protek Magic 2. Once again, I don't know how much it is. I think it's like $200 if I remember correctly, which is extremely, extremely good quality knife, solid knife by Protek. Now, if you see this knife, notice that there's no button to open it. It's an automatic knife, but there's no button. There's also on the blade, there's no thumb stud or anything that will help you open the knife or flick it. And as a matter of fact, if you try to open it yourself, you can't. Like, I'm pulling hard right there and I cannot open it. So I learned about this knife when I watched the video of somebody handing this knife to people and being like, if you can open this knife, and I think it was at a knife conference, like a blade show or something like that. It's like, if you can open this knife, you get $100. And people couldn't figure it out. Now, I've never done that because this knife is scary sharp. So if somebody figures out a way to open it, I think they're going to go to the emergency room. It's very, very scary. So the way it works is the scales, if you tweak them in a way with your hand, and this takes a lot of practice, if you tweak it in the proper way, it will just snap open just like that. And I know you couldn't even tell that I open it, right? I'll do it again, and I'll put it close to the camera. Look at this. You can't even see my hand move, and it just opens up. I love this knife. I think it's cool. I've been buying kind of like interesting pieces because I have just your regular pocket knives. You know, they don't have anything special on them. So I started buying just like interesting pieces, and I thought this one was cool. The fact that you're kind of the only one that knows how to open. So let me see if I can show you closer to the camera. Okay. These 2 scales, I don't know what's the best way to show you. But these 2 things, the 2 black scales, they shift. Maybe open is the best way to do it. Safer. So this is, let me open it right here. See how they kind of move? There's a little bit of movement. And you push it with this, like with your hand, with this, I don't know what this part is called, but you push it with that, and then the scales go. And it's the same push to close it. So you open it by tweaking it, and then you have to, again, tweak that scales to close it. Pretty interesting. Don't hand it to people, or if I hand it, I kind of like, open it for them, and then, here goes. Just hand it because I don't want them even closing it. Let me just do it. So that was knife number 1. So once again, Protek Magic 2 is the name of that. Next up, this is a pretty cheap knife, but I saw it and I kind of fell in love with it because it's so ugly. It's like, those ugly dogs that they do competition for the ugliest dog. This thing right here. This is called the CRKT Snap Lock. I think this is like $50 or something. It's not very expensive, but it opens weird. I don't have any knife that opens like this. So here's what happens. You see this thing right here on the back. You pull this, and then the knife is going to come out this way. So there's a big chance that you're going to get caught if you don't know how to do it. So you will pull, and then see the knife comes through the handle that way, and now you can use it, right? So to close it, same thing. I'm going to push with the thumb, and then you see it's going to fold like into your hand. Like it's almost on my hand right there. So you have to be really careful closing and opening this knife. Is pretty interesting. So once again, not the best, especially if you're going to deploy it quickly, you know, like there's an emergency or whatever, you need to pull your knife quickly. This is not the knife for that. This is, I carry this once in a while. Sometimes like I'll see it and I'm like, yeah, I'm going to carry it today. But it's just an interesting knife to play with. It's just one of those. If you have a bunch of pocket knives and want something interesting that no one else will have, this is one of those things. Not very expensive, but it's just interesting. All right, this is probably one of my favorite knives. This is called the Paragon Warlock. This is not for sale anymore. I don't even think Paragon exists anymore as a company. But if you notice, the blade is not visible anywhere. And you would think that it's like an out the front, like right here, the blade coming out of there, but that's not the case. The blade is actually included in the handle of the knife. So let me show you how I open it. Oh, come on. So I don't know if you noticed that technique, and it's like super sharp edges on both sides. I'll get it close so you can see the knife. It's just awesome. But if you notice, I'm going to open it and let it fall. See how the blade will hide on the handle? Just letting gravity do its thing. And then you close it. So when you press the button, this button right here, when you press that, notice the knife will open and let the blade out. And then you just flick it. And then it's locked in place. And there's no more rattle or anything. It's just super strong. So it's a cool knife to just fiddle around. You know, you kind of... And the satisfaction from that noise just... Man, that sounds so good. So you will just sit there all day, every day, just opening and closing this knife, which is really cool. So this knife, again, I think I picked this one up when they already were not even for sale. Like, I guess somebody was selling it from their own collection, or maybe a store had one laying around. I don't remember because I'm not a huge fan of blue knives, but I picked this one up. It's, I think, the only knife that I have that is blue like this, just solid blue. So super awesome. So once again, you just press the button and kind of flick. You have to learn how to do it. But imagine handing somebody this knife and being like, yeah, you figure out. You figure out that when you do that, the knife will open up, letting the blade out. Yeah, you figure that out. You can't. It's this is another one of those that I like open and hand it to people because it's not easy to figure out. So that's number 3. And in that same theme of knives that are not easy to open, or perhaps somebody that could try to open it get caught in the process, is a Balisong knife. This one happens to be bench made, but just any brand, right? So if you know how to open a Balisong, cool, you can have it. I can just give it to you and it's close. But if you don't, you know, learning that is the motion to open it is not as simple, and you want to hand it to people already open. They use it and then you can close it because it's dangerous. Very, very sharp. This is, you know, just a brand. This is from Benchmade, but they sell them from a bunch of places. And by the way, I got a Balisong because I got a trainer. See, this trainer is dulled. It doesn't do anything. I can grab it, white knuckle it on the blade part of it, and it doesn't do anything. But this is what I used to practice, you know, before I even had a knife. So I just bought this and I sat around like in, you know, business calls or whatever, and just doing this thing all day, every day for hours until you get good with it. And, you know, you start doing some maneuvers and things like that and getting hit in the knuckles, and you learn your lessons. So recommend you get a Balisong practice knife before you get an actual Balisong knife, or a butterfly knife, however you want to call it. That was number 4. Last but not least, I don't carry this knife quite often because it doesn't fit on every pocket of every jean I have, but I have some jeans that I can fit it. But I love this knife. It's probably one of my favorites. Is a Spada, cold steel Spada. This knife is gorgeous. Let's see if I can get it to focus. Come on. Not enough light, I guess. But this thing is gorgeous. You can see it's like a like a mirror finish. It's just gorgeous, but it's also humongous. So let me just open it. Oh, come on. So you can see this thing is humongous. I don't remember how long it is. I think the blade is like 10 inches or something like that. It's ridiculous. I'm going to put it right next to my head so you can see. It's bigger than my head, this thing. But it's badass. And it's you can grab it with 2 hands. You can see. Cold Steel Spada. Cold Steel makes perhaps the best locking mechanism in the business. I mean, I've seen them hang like hundreds of pounds on the blade and the blade not collapsing. Like the whole handle has broken and the locking mechanism doesn't collapse. So Cold Steel I appreciate, and I really commend them for their locking mechanism. But look at this thing. You know, it's hard to hand this knife to people and expect them to know. Ugh. First, you need a lot of strength to close it and open it. But just opening it, you have to be so careful because look how huge that is. Now, the advantage of it is that there's a lot of material for you to hang and open it, but then the closing action is hard, and then again it's like a guillotine there. If you have your fingers in the way, you're gonna lose them. So best noise is opening one-handed. Oh, that lock is just awesome. Yeah, I'll do it again. Come on. Yeah. Here we go. I don't know if you heard that because I was grunting. I'll try to be quiet this time. Woo. I think it's badass. I don't know if they sell this anymore. The Spada XL. This is the biggest model. I think they have a couple of different models, but I have the Spada XL. This thing is badass. Great knife. I carry this, again, when my jeans allow me to because it doesn't fit in every pocket. I mean, look how much needs to fit in the pocket. This whole thing is like, it's humongous. But anyway, those are my 5 knives I cannot hand to people. If I had to pick one of these, you know, my favorite, I would say the Warlock is probably my favorite. I just love that mechanism, you know, and the trickiness of hiding the blade in the handle and stuff. I just think is so cool. And another one of those that if you hand to people and you're like, how do you open this thing? They won't figure it out, or at least they won't figure it out without cutting themselves. So there you go. Thank you for tuning in. And, if you enjoy that video, there's a bunch of other ones we're going to be making, but I made one about kicking techniques that you can use if you're a diver, if you're watching this because you're a diver. How do you practice your buoyancy and trim? And I'm going to leave it right here so you can check it out. But more videos coming about knives and bikes and all the other stuff that we enjoy doing when we're not diving. So we'll see you on the next one.